Welcome back, Warrior Fam.
Yay!
We are so excited for this episode. I definitely say that sentence every single week.
Yes.
It's just like when you're like, this conversation was super fun.
Our guest was awesome.
Yeah, we have our go-to like comfortable sentences. I
Yes.
think that it quells my anxiety. It's like, okay, Margot, you got this. You can just say the same sentence every week. And I am excited for this time. It's true.
Yes.
I'm not lying. I'm excited for this episode.
Right.
We are so excited that you are here joining us today. We are going to be discussing the act of letting go.
Let it go. We're doing it just so we can sing.
Basically. Let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Promise we'll stop. Well, for now. So yeah, the act of letting go. We're going to be talking a little bit about the act of forgiveness and how they are the same and or different to us, and maybe situation dependent.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be sharing some stories, and then we have Abby, you have a great active practice for us.
Yes.
Surrounding letting go today.
Yes, I do. Because this is definitely an active practice for me. Letting go is constantly a practice that I need to remind myself of.
Yep. Same.
Yeah.
Same. All right.
So how do you define letting go, or the difference between letting go and forgiveness?
Yeah. So I view letting go and forgiveness as different things.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes letting go can lead to the act of forgiving. But maybe not in the way that you think. We'll see. For me, letting go is the act of releasing with an intention of not repairing the situation.
Yeah.
Or the relationship or whatever it may be. And forgiving is the act of releasing with the intention of using actionable steps or something that's going to lead to healing.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for within myself.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's kind of how I view them both.
What about you? I totally love it. So I view it differently, but similar. Mm-hmm. Right. And I just, I love that you also hear it differently. Cause sometimes when I talk about letting go, people instantly think I mean forgiveness. I'm like, for me, they're different too. So for letting go, the first thing is like when I say letting go, like I might be talking about friendships, or I might be talking about situations, or I might be talking about like past hurts, right? I might be talking about parts of me. Like if I'm having like low self-esteem and I want to consciously work on letting that go. But I view them differently. And for letting go, for me, it's an act of self-kindness. So for me, I remind myself, it's not about being right or wrong in the situation. It's valuing my peace of mind and my well-being. And it's more like my peace of mind is more important than whatever is bothering me. But with letting go, it feels a lot more intentional in the sense that like if someone did something that hurt me, right, I might have to let go of the hurt, but then I also might have to let go of the anger of the person. Then I might also have to let go of the friendship. So for me, letting go is really getting clear on all the pieces I'm holding on to and letting them go as an act of self-care, of self-kindness.
Yeah.
But for when I think about forgiveness, I think about how that involves someone else. And when I'm thinking about forgiving, I then think of like having empathy for the person or compassion for them, trying to see it from their side. And in that forgiveness, it might lead to repairing with the person. Right. Or again, it just might be me really like forgiving and letting go. Right. So for me, forgiveness can be a letting go practice. But letting go doesn't always involve forgiveness, which sounds kind of said something similar at the end. Like,
yes.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
I always found it strangely. Some people in my life actually say it's kind of odd the way I had such an easy time letting go of unhealthy things. And I shouldn't say everything that's unhealthy, because I think it's always a spectrum. And as you evolve and change, there's new things to acquire, just as there's new things to let go of. But once I've like reached a place in my own mind or heart, right, in my own knowing, it's like, oh, it's time to just let go of that. once I've hit the place of like,
Yeah.
it's time to let something go, I'm
Yeah.
really free about it.
Wow.
And I really don't, I'm not harboring anything. Even if I
Right.
had a lot of anger, we talked about this before we started recording. Even if I had a lot of anger about towards a person or a situation, and I was fits of rage and super defensive and a lot of attitude about it,
Yeah.
which I deal with and dealt with like forever. Um, I would still like as soon as the cord was cut, I felt like like a weight
Wow.
lifted, and I was truly always able to just say, "Well, this thing's no longer part of me, and
Right.
I'm ready to let it go." And it
Yeah.
was always kind of easy, which feels weird because like we agreed that sometimes the anger part of us or that fiery part of us can be all consuming.
Yeah. 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 No, for me, it's like much more of a like a focused practice. Like the thing
Mm.
is things that I think I sometimes let go of when they pop up, right? Like remembering something. Like if I have an emotional reaction, I'm like, whoops, I still haven't let that one go. Like I'm like, oh, that's still really there. Like,
Yeah.
and so for me, and then I have to like do my practice because otherwise my habits go to still having anger about a situation or still have, whatever storylines come up and I'm like, okay, time to let
Yes.
it go again.
I have plenty of that too. I think like what
Yeah.
if I allow myself to go to the place where I'm actively trying to think about it,
Yeah.
then sure, like some of those feelings will bubble back up. But then just as quickly, I'm able to just say, but that's no longer a part of my life or my
Right.
routine or I'm not in that situation anymore. And so I'm able to, as you said, use the practices to just sort of move on through.
Yeah.
So interesting. All right, Abby. So why don't you get rolling first with some juicy letting go slash maybe
Juicy.
forgiving or not forgiving stories?
Yeah. I would say this is a letting go, but not forgiving story.
Love it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, forgiveness takes a lot more from me. And I have done forgiveness practices and I have forgiven people for sure, but this is not one of those times. Maybe one day. So my story is around letting go of a friendship. And this was a friendship that I had since we were like second grade, right? We called each other like best friends from like second grade until like 3 years ago, right? And I have a few best friends. Like just so we know, I have a few best friends, but this was one of the people that fell in that category.
Right.
Um, but the problem was like we brought out the worst in each other. Like
Mm.
the behaviors I did around her, I didn't do with any of my other friends. And the things she did to me, right? Like I don't know if she did it to other people, but like I wouldn't have condoned, like I wouldn't have allowed that from other people.
Sure.
There was like a lot of unspoken competition between us, especially like when it came to like relationships. So not just like dating, but even like friendships. It would be like I remember like, this person would go out of her way to let me know if she like hung out with a friend and I wasn't included.
Mm.
Or like, even with like having crushes on people and stuff. Like she would go out of her way to let me know if she hung out with the crush. And I'm sure I did the same to her. Right.
Right.
And, there was always a pattern of um, just unhealthy relationship. Like, I don't necessarily want to say abuse, but like, I remember in sixth grade, like, we've talked about how I've had issues around dancing. And in sixth grade, this is the friend that we were at a party and I was dancing and she was like, you dance weird. And then she like teased me. And then I like never danced again until college when I had alcohol in me. Right.
Mm.
And the second part, the me deciding not to dance, that is my responsibility. But like friends don't need to tear each other down, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
understand it's weird when you're 12, but and then
That's an understatement.
yeah, we don't know how to like do things, but and to be fair, like her mom tore her down, so that's the thing she was learning, right?
Mm.
And so I remember like in high school, there, like I said, this unspoken competition between us. And I remember like I was going on like a first or second date with this guy, right? And he had invited me over to his house to watch a movie. And I wasn't going to go alone. Like I was smart enough to know that. So I brought her. We all watched the movie. We're getting ready to go. And right in front of me, she gives him her phone number. And I was like, what?
What? I'm sorry. What year was this?
This is
How
like
old were
12th
you?
grade.
Oh, so you were much
Yeah.
older. Okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, a couple months later, like someone she had a crush on, I like kissed, right? Like just really bad behavior back and forth.
Did she know
Um,
that you kissed her?
yeah, of
Oh,
course,
okay.
because
You told her.
I told her like, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not proud of sharing this. This is definitely like stuff I'm like lightly ashamed of, right? Like, I would never want to be that person. But for some reason, we just brought out the worst in each other. We just constantly, right? And
Right.
like we had our friendship put on hold a few times, like throughout college, we grew apart and you know, then we reconnected after college. And then I just like remember like we were like in our 30s and we just like I was trying to have a really good friendship with her at this point because I realized like there's all these unserving things between us and I really wanted to have a healthy relationship with her, but yet like there was still things like ditching each other for men like in our 30s. And I like sent her in an email and I was like are we best friends or are we just like gal pals like hanging out? Because I don't think best friends do this to each other and I genuinely want us to show up and be better friends to each other. And so like I wanted to do the work if she was willing to, or I was willing to just let go of that type of friendship and lower the expectations. So we were going to maybe repair it. And then right around that time is also like when my dad passed. And then about 2 weeks after my dad passed, something pretty bad happened to me that I confided in her about. And it's private and I'm not going to talk about it now. It's not the right podcast for it. But I trusted her. And so I remember when we were trying to repair the relationship, she was dating this guy that was known as abusive. And I was, you know, trying to work through that too. Like, how do you date someone who's so horrible? And I asked her, I said, hey, you didn't tell this person my private thing, right? And she looked me in the eyes and she said, no, I didn't tell him it. And I was like, okay, so let's work on our relationship and move forward. And it was like 4 months later, 3 months later, where this abusive person was in a bar drinking and started shouting out the thing that happened to me.
Oh my
And
God.
someone I knew was in the bar and heard it and instantly text messaged me and was like, hey, this person is saying these things about you in this bar. And I was like, right. And so the first thing is like, I'm in my mid 30s. Like, I don't have time for this kind of drama. Like, I'm grieving the death of my dad. Like, you know, and so I reached out to her and I was like, oh, so it turns out you did tell him. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, you broke trust. Like, if you had admitted earlier on that you did tell him and you regretted it, there would have been room for repair.
Right.
But you didn't do that. And now I can't trust you. And there's no point in having a friendship. And so that was it. Like our friendship ended. But the letting go piece of it, right, was that I had to work through all of the things. I was angry at her. I was hurt by her. I was angry at myself for trusting her. I was grieving because the thing is this person I've been friends with since we were 7. We had so many adventures together. Like we like had so much fun. And even though we didn't bring out the best in each other, we still we traveled around Europe together and we like saved a baby bird once together. Like we had all of these very cherished memories and being friends with her always anchored me into my childhood and a lot of like joy and fun and things that we could laugh about. And so like I wasn't only just letting go of the friendship, but I was also letting go of those shared memories and I was letting go of the grief and I was letting go of the feeling betrayed and like wondering like is this going to impact how I trust people? Right. Like, and I'm still working on it. Like, that's the thing, is that I'm still working on the letting go piece, because recently, as you know, I was in New York and I ended up seeing her and she didn't see me. And a flood of anger like went through me. And I was like, I still haven't let this go yet. Right. Like,
Yeah.
it's still there. There's a lot of pieces I've let go of. I've let go of the friendship. I've let go of the shared memories, but there's still like this righteousness or this anger about what she did. And so
Sure.
this is like, I have to continue to work on that piece of the letting go. The last thing I'll say about all of that is like, it definitely taught me the strong lesson, right? Like, first of all, like, it made me realize I don't have time for unhealthy relationships. I just don't. It doesn't matter how long we've been friends. It doesn't matter if we're family, right?
Yeah.
And I say that for a reason that I'll get to in just a moment. Like, it doesn't matter what the label is. If you are harming me or if this relationship is unhealthy, it's not worth it to me. I'm just going to let it go. And so I've applied what I learned with this one friend just recently, where I have a cousin who decided to send me some nasty texts. Her patterns of behavior are passive aggressive and attacking people when she feels left out or upset or whatever. And she's had this pattern our entire life, right? Like, she misunderstands something and she attacks me. And then I have to always be on the defense of explaining to her why she's wrong. And just recently, when she sent these texts attacking me without having any understanding of any context, I was like, I don't care that she's family. Like, I don't care. I'm letting go. I didn't engage with her. I didn't explain to her. She didn't deserve any of that, because she never changes. And her abusive behavior towards me just causes me a lot of stress and pain. And so, I was able to like really like get clear with this cousin, like, it doesn't matter the label. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that best friend since second grade, it doesn't matter. Like, at some point, if they're hurting you enough, you have to let them go.
Right.
And, I'm not going to say like anytime I have a disagreement with someone, I'm like, oh, fuck you. Like, we're not friends anymore. Right. It has to be like a pattern of abuse or a pattern of toxicity where at some point things aren't changing, dynamics aren't changing, and my well-being is more important to me than the constant stress of this relationship with this person.
Yes.
So, it's like, for me, it's still a practice. I get very attached to people, right? And so, like, as I just said, like with this friend, things still come up. And with other things that I've let go of over the years, like leaving that one toxic job that I had, like thinking about it even now, it still brings up stuff. And I have to like actively practice, like, okay, what is it? Is it anger? Is it hurt? Is it, sadness? Is it grief? What is it? And then practice letting go of that piece of it. And I feel like that's ultimately what gets me.
So being able to put a label onto the emotion, right? So at first it's the getting curious, like you said, asking yourself those questions. Then it's putting a label to the emotion. Then it's deciding what that emotion needs to feel soothed, right? And so that sounds like a really powerful active practice.
Yeah.
Just generally.
Yeah. I mean, because for me, I can't just say like, fuck you, and then like the friendship or relationship is over. Like, for me, it's like a ball of yarn. And I have to pull out all the pieces and be like, okay, part of letting go is letting go of the hurt. Part of letting go is letting go of the memories. Part of letting go is, and not obviously I still have the memories, but the shared memories. And by pulling each piece apart, I'm able to like move through it usually quicker, but some of them still sting a little more.
Yeah. And I just want to normalize that for you and just for anyone listening, right? Like, this idea that, well, if we're practicing letting go, we should just let it go, let it all go. Like, that isn't necessarily going to be everyone's truth, and or not everyone's truth for every situation or every unhealthy relationship. So let's just normalize that sometimes it's going to be continuous, and it could be for a super long time, if
Yeah.
not always, right?
Right.
I have a couple of questions I would love
Yeah.
to. So, like, you said that you were friends with this person from a very young age.
Yeah.
So, like, if you were to think back, what do you think it was about this person that was drawing to you? Like, what interested you about them? And then through the years, like,
Mhm.
you went on to say that you had a bunch of adventures together, lots of fun. Maybe those things kind of helped you to anchor to it. But, like, I'm
Yeah.
curious, when you think back on your relationship to this person, the friend, not the cousin,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like, what was it about them that kept you coming back, even with your sort of harsh behavior towards one another? And maybe for her too, it's like, wonder what kept her coming back to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I think it's because, at least the first thing that's popping up is just that, like, we could be each other with each other. Like, you know, we were like a little bit dorky, and we could embrace that together. And, we could be silly, and we could embrace that together, and we could share our insecurities, and be friend like be okay with that with each other to an extent, right?
Right.
And I just really think that I really think that the thing that had me keep coming back was the longevity of the friendship.
Right. Not being willing to necessarily let go of all the foundation and everything that you had built.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I
And
knew her family,
right, it was
I was close with.
complicated.
Yeah, yeah. It was a long-term relationship,
Right.
even though it wasn't that healthy.
Right, right. And I could definitely relate to that in so many ways.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's amazing that, when you jumped ahead and into when you were wondering about what your
Mhm.
friendship was anymore, when you reached this point in your
Yeah,
30s at the time, and you sent this email communication, right? It
yeah,
just like, what kinds of friends are we?
yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
so we're either going to repair what we once had, or we're going to, cool the sting down a little bit. And that way, for your own anxious attachment brain, maybe like you can be like, well, I won't have the same expectations that I once
Yes.
did for our relationship. So, like, I just want to like sparkle and shine and twinkle fingers you on that, because that's a brave thing to like go to a best friend or a former best friend and be able to say, hey, I'm not feeling, super, super supported anymore by you. And
Yeah,
maybe there's a mutual reason for that. And our relationship may have ebbed and flowed, but let's get some clarity on it. Right.
right.
And the fact that she was game, at least for a little while,
Yeah,
um, it's just it's just a testament to what people can do if they want to forgive or
right.
restore or repair a relationship with people.
Yeah. And I love to, like, just some context around that, because I totally agree. Like, when things aren't working, there can be room for repair. There absolutely can, if both parties are willing to work on it,
Right.
right? Like, relationships are work. They really are. And when we were younger, we might not have always learned about, like, how to repair relationships and how to really listen to the other person. Um, just for a little context, what that moment, what happened was, like, we were supposed to be celebrating our birthdays together, and she ditched me for this abusive guy. At, like, in the middle of us hanging out, right, and
Oh
celebrating
my
our
God.
birthdays. And then, like, the next day or 2 days after, I went to a 10-day silent retreat. And so it was my second silent retreat, and that was on my mind. And so I was able to get
Mhm.
extremely clear headed, right? Did I just want to end the friendship? Did I, like, want to pull back? And that's where I was able to, like, really, like, I mean, you can't write there, but, like, I was forming all
Right.
these, like, emails in my head. And so I was able to be really clear, like, let's just get clear on this, so we have really clear expectations of who we are to each other. um the 10-day silent meditation helped with that clarity.
Sure. Okay. But still, I mean, but that was still a choice you made, right? To go to that 10-day silent retreat. And so, it's
Yes.
still, the sparkles still go to you,
Thank
right?
you.
Because
I'll still
it's not
take
like
them.
you were forced to go on that retreat to think about all the things that
Right.
you were you had to think about without any distractions and whatever. I'm curious too. I'm dying to know, like, when that interaction happened in the bar and you wound up confronting her about the situation, how did she react? Did she say something like, yeah, you're right. I told him and I should have told you. Or was she super defensive? Was she cagey about it? I'm just curious, like how that interaction went down.
Yeah. So one of the things that about me is when I get really angry, like rage, it is very hard for me to like form memories. So so I don't exactly remember. What I do remember is I snapshotted the pictures of the person that had texted me from the bar, and I sent them right to her, and I was like, "Oh, so you didn't tell him, huh?" Right?
Mm.
And and I'm pretty sure what I did was something like, "We're done." And like I don't think I did too much more. Like I think she sent a couple long texts like, I wanted to tell you, and now this is one of the biggest regrets of my life that I didn't do that, and it sucks that this guy's come in between us. And but it's like it wasn't the guy, it was you. um
Right.
but and all that, and then I'm pretty sure I just blocked her, and
Yeah.
that was it. So but I can't remember that clearly. Like I remember where I was. This is the funny part. Like I remember like I was sitting in my car when she wrote those long texts, and I remember like where I like what city I was in and all that, but I don't really remember what she said because at that point there was just no room for forgiveness. Again, it's like
Mm.
I just want to make really clear, like if she had been honest at the beginning and didn't break the trust, there could have been room for repair. It would have been
Right.
uncomfortable, but
Sure.
it could have worked out. And honestly, I'm glad like it worked out the way it did because I didn't like who I was around her. Right.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. So it's worked out for me.
And you learned that lesson for your interaction with your cousin recently, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, it's like,
Oh,
okay, now I know what I need to do when I'm faced with, that pattern and it's been
yeah.
too much. And sometimes you just hit that wall and
And that's it. And that's, I
yeah,
mean, it sucks. It's family. You want to like think that like, families, are good to each other or like whatever you want to think about. It's like
sure.
family, we should be loving and supportive, but that doesn't mean we condone abusive behavior. It
Right.
that doesn't, they're not, you can't just
Yes.
treat your family horribly and expect them to want to be around you or
Yeah.
text you or anything, like so. And I had been pulling away from my cousin for a while.
Mm.
And it was this moment where I like clicked it together in my head, and I was like, not playing this game anymore. So I slept on it, and I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm gonna change the pattern. That's it.
Yeah.
That's like
That's
literally
it.
that's what I was gonna do. I'm gonna change the pattern. And it doesn't mean that me and my cousin can't repair at some point, but not right now. I
Not
don't
the
need that
time.
abuse. I don't need that like passive aggressive. Like be a grown up. Let's talk like grown ups. And if you
Yeah.
can't, I don't really have time for your abuse.
Right. Yeah, it's a simple way of thinking about it. I don't have time and I'm not willing to give of my time, right? Because it
Yeah.
takes away from your peace, your
Mm-hmm.
energy, and your peace and energy is what's going to help the people in your community thrive, not just
Yeah.
yourself, too, right? You have
Right.
a husband, you have animals to care for, you have friends and clients
Mm-hmm.
and, a community. And so peace and energy, that's what you want
Yeah.
to convey. That's how you want to feel inside.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
deserve those things. We all do. And so my final question is, what does letting go feel like for you? Like, what does it feel like in your body, in
Yeah.
your thoughts?
Yeah. So, like a couple things, like there's two words that popped up immediately. Right. And so, letting go feels like freedom to me, right? It feels like I literally think of like Elsa, like when she's singing Let It Go, because I
Got that
literally feel
swag.
like, yeah, like I can open up and I can breathe and I can be me. Like that's like letting go. So there's like that freedom to it. And then I also feel like it's like empowerment because I'm choosing to commit to letting it go. And so that allows me to feel like one, I have agency, I have choice in this. And two, it makes me feel like strong, like empowered that like, okay, I am committing to this. I am showing up when things come up. I'm going to actively practice letting them go so I can feel that freedom.
Yeah. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Letting it go,
Let it
people.
go. So like open, expansive. Okay.
Yes. I love that. I love that. That's such a
Thanks.
beautiful way to cap it.
Yeah. And so just so you know, because like you and I talked about like what should we talk on our podcast? And you know, this is also like my way of like letting it go for good. Like that's it. Like I've decided when I was in New York and I noticed that I was still feeling angry, I was like, I'm ready to really let it go. And like even saying it like makes me a little sad. Um,
Sure.
but I really like it's been like 3 years now. Am I really gonna keep holding on to this anger? Like it's not doing anything to her, right? She has her own things she's holding
Right.
on to or letting go of. And so like this podcast is also like, or this episode is my way of like, okay, it's put to
Official.
rest. Yeah, it's we gone.
It's official. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Party, party, dancing out all the bad people.
Yeah, dance it out. Well, thank you
Punch
for
the air, punch it
listening.
out.
That was
Yes.
like that was like some therapy for me to let
Oh,
it go.
good. Goody. Yeah, listen, talking things out is super supportive. This is why we're here,
Mm-hmm.
to speak, to listen, and to hear from you all about how this conversation impacts you and what
Yeah.
comes up for you when you hear us chat about this stuff. So thank you for being so open and sharing it all.
Thank you.
It isn't easy. Let's acknowledge that. Let's acknowledge that what we're doing isn't always easy too, right? Like saying
Yeah.
some of the shit out loud is kind of daunting.
Yeah.
We don't know who could hear it when, and
Nope.
yeah.
Yeah.
So who
Yes.
knows? Yeah.
Thank you
So
for acknowledging that piece. Yeah, because there's definitely like vulnerability in this and like
right.
definitely some fear of judgment and
Always.
like, so yeah,
The
thank
greatest
you for
hits.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, like I said before, for some reason I've always had this uncanny maybe ability that even when I'm in a situation and I know it's not going well, and I might stay in it for longer than I should or even really want to my core, but once the wall's been hit, no matter what it is,
Mm-hmm,
it's
mm-hmm.
just like, okay, this is it. I'm done. I can't
Yeah.
keep doing this. And you know, I don't really have those regrets of like, why didn't I do it sooner? Or because you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Something has to trigger the it's time to let go moment.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different and true for everybody, right? Everyone's unique experience is going to be lending itself to when it's time for you to let something go. And so, my story is funny because mine's about an old friend as well, former
Mm-hmm.
friend. I haven't been friends with this person for way longer than 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so interesting too, the way so many friendships and relationships that started when we were in our formative years can still impact us, even when they've been
Yeah.
gone for, in my case, almost 2 decades.
Right.
So, and at the end of the day, the story, I am fully let go of this person. But because of my pattern of being able to release people at a quicker rate now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not because I'm just like, oh, like you said at the beginning of your story, like, oh, I had a fight with someone or I had an issue. And so I'm just F you, I'm done
Right.
with you. No, of course not. We're human. We're going to have rocky relationships, but most of them are worth saving, or many of them are. But I think the older I get, the less long I'm willing to stay in whatever
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable or unhealthy pattern I'm in. So the story is about someone that I was friends with for a really long time through our early middle school and high school years. And she was a good friend. She was more than just part of our inner circle. She was part of like my inner circle.
Mm.
Like it was like the larger group of inner circle of like 10 to 12 girls. And then there was like a handful of us that were really tight. And like within
Yeah.
our clique, there were little cliques, just like people you
Yeah.
jive with a little bit better or differently. So she was a really warm, funny, exuberant, bubbly person. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
really what drew me to her. And we both had, lots of energy, and like you, kind of similar to what you said, we could be really silly together, and, we shared some of the same interests. And so it was great. But she had a little bit of an edge to her. And I do too. I feel like all of us, if we think about it, right, there's an edge to each of us, and that edge doesn't necessarily jibe with somebody else's edge.
Yeah.
And it would come out, though, her edge in very negative ways, very passive aggressive, lots of backhanded comments,
Mm-hmm.
insults that were masked as jokes, like things that she
Mm-hmm.
was always able to just say, like, I'm just kidding. Right. Which I mean, like most people would argue like jokes are really how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And they had no alcohol involved either. Right. It wasn't even like, oh, her inhibitions are lowered. Like, nope, just that's
Yeah.
just how she really feels. But because she's being told like, wow, that's nasty or that's hurtful. Oh, no. You can't take what I say seriously. Don't, oh, I'm just kidding. I promise. Like, and she would laugh it off. And we would always call her the foot and mouth syndrome girl. All of it. I mean, most of us would say, oh, she just puts her foot in her mouth all the time. And like, so when other people outside of our circle would comment on her sort of attitude or the things she would say, it's like, why does she talk to you that way? Why does she talk to you guys that way? And it was kind of like, oh, well, that's just her. That's just how, and we all go and like, and I was completely complicit, right, in her like cruelty to a certain extent.
Right.
And we would always just say, it's just her, chalk it up to that's just the way she is. That's her personality. And I think part of that emboldened her, right? Because it's like we were helping her embrace that part of herself. Because when we were young, it was kind of like silly and funny. But then as we got older and our temperaments changed, our attitudes change, our relationships change, it started to become less and less okay with some of the stuff that she would say. But, at the end of the day, it was like, I've been in this relationship with this person for so many years, right? Do I give it all up? Do I, whatever, she'd made comments about my body. Like you wouldn't understand. You're so skinny. Like just, she would make comments about my small boobs, like calling them bee stings. And like, these were things and that's when my rage would be triggered, right?
Yeah.
Because I would instantly feel like, oh my God, there's something wrong with my body. And so like my adolescent brain was kind of just like, well, now I'm going to attack her body. Right. And so my gut wasn't to retreat. My gut was to fight.
Right.
And to like go back at her. And then I would pass it off in the way she would as a joke. Right.
Right.
Oh, just kidding. Oh, you're just kidding. Me too. And she knew they weren't jokes too. And her demeanor would change. And it was like, oh, you can dish it out, but you can't take it.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the way it was. And, God, even years later, there are some people that I'm still friends with that are still connected to this person. And she even had said something about like their child at one point about the way that their child looked and made a quote unquote joke about their kid. And like, it was not good. Yeah. I mean, I was just like, well, to me, I kind of just shrugged and was like, well, that's not a surprise. Right. This is why I dropped this relationship years ago.
Right. That's who she is.
Not a shock. Yeah. But I digress, whatever. And it's just like, I don't have to deal with this. I reached the point, and it was in my early 20s. It was right after I finished community college, like between, going to community college and going away to school for a couple of years, that like, I was in the car with another really good friend and like my inner circle. And I turned to her and I was just like, I'm done with that person.
Yeah.
It's all been a bridge too far this week. And honestly, when I was preparing for the podcast, I tried to think back on what happened specifically.
Right.
That made me hit the wall, and I can't come up with it. But I do remember this interaction in the car with my other friend, because I'm still friends with this person. And I said, I'm just done. And like, I said it with such like lightness,
Yeah.
And she was really emotional about it. It like affected her that like, I said, I can't be friends with this person. I have to just be done. I'm ready to move on. We have different personalities. I'm tired of like condoning it by being in relationship with her.
Right.
And that's like my way of condoning that type of behavior towards myself, towards other people. And so I said I was done. And then it felt like weight lifted in instant inner peace, just instant inner peace. And I was excited to tell my friend about this letting go. And she was sad. She was really sad. And then I kind of had to explain, like, I'm not sad. I'm so sorry you're sad.
Yeah.
But like, be happy for me. Try to find a way to be happy for me, because this is the right choice for me. And I think she looked at it more of like, we're losing our childhoods. Right. And there was a certain amount of that I went through my mind as well. But once the decision was made, there was no going back.
Right.
And it was interesting what you were saying about like letting go of memories, because I keep that. I have all the good memories. I keep them. Like I feel happy to stay connected and joyful to the good memories.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've been able to let go of the bad memories. And
Mm.
my favorite part about it is that once I decided to let go of this relationship, again, at a pretty young age, maybe 20 years old, I said, but now I have instant forgiveness and compassion because my intention is not to go back to this person. Now, if my intention was to try to repair the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Would I have had all that forgiveness and compassion? Probably not. There would have been a lot more
Yeah.
sticky stuff to work through with this human,
Right.
assuming she were willing to work on it with me. But I don't, because the problem was, or not the problem, but the situation was that it wasn't about repairing something we had. It was
Yeah.
that our personalities were not compatible. The way she joked or her backhanded comments, her passive aggression wasn't compatible with my
Right.
open, honest kind of like, let's just be real and not be shitty towards one another
Right.
attitude. Right. So like they just weren't compatible. And so I was able to look at that very easily, I guess. I saw it like right now I'm picturing like a scale, right? And I'm just kind of like, it felt very even to me. Like we're the opposite end of the magnet.
Yeah.
And that's got to be okay, right? We got to move out of our adolescent relationships sometimes. And,
Yeah.
we get herded in with groups of people as children. And some of those people may remain friends forever.
Yeah.
But more often than not, right, that group's going to get dwindled down to like people who really are committed, because as you get older, things are complicated, right? And so it's that much almost easier in a way, maybe, to let people go because you have so many other things complicating the situation. But for me, at least in this stage, I hit graduated my college. I was getting ready to go off to school, and I was just like, time for a cord cut.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to just fully let go and move on. And yeah, I mean, I was like, this is a good thing. This feels good. This feels right. And so why should I hold on to it? If being in it feels wrong,
right,
and letting go of it feels right,
right.
that's where you go. You go towards the feeling right. That's just where like our gut instinct has to come in. And as you kind of said before, protecting your peace,
right,
no matter what age and stage, no matter the situation. If you are not feeling at home with a person,
right.
and I'm not saying like they have to become your best friend or your lover or whatever, but if you don't feel safe being around a person and any part of you doesn't feel safe, any part of you, not just your physical body, any part of you doesn't feel safe being around that person, that's not your person.
Right.
You've got to move away from that person.
Right. It's information right there.
Right.
I'm super curious. How did you end up like ending the friendship or letting it go? Like, did you like call her up and say, yo, girl, we done? Like, did you just block her and never respond to her? Like, how did you do it?
It's kind of like when you said that you had that conversation, you were heated and angry and you don't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, this was almost 20 years ago. So I feel like all that happened was we just stopped communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Like we really weren't, our relationship had grown apart to a certain extent anyway. We were both on different paths, different planes, literally living in different places. And so that part of it was made easy in a way. And at some point, there was just no non-responsiveness. It was just like, there was no more contact.
Yeah.
And neither of us picked up the contact. What I did wind up learning is that like, I think she might have asked like a friend, like, hey, what's going on with Margot? Anything I should know? What's up? And like, they were cagey about it because that was my talk to have. And she never did. Right. And so to me, that was just more of a sign that like this relationship was done. Right. Like, cause neither of us had the desire to seek the other one out to like continue it. Right. I'm sure that to a certain extent. And again, I really wish I could remember like what had happened, that it was just kind of like, why the fuck am I still in this friendship with this person?
Right.
But listen, maybe it was felt on her end as well. Like we are on two different places and that's gotta be okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that I've always held that to be true, even in recent years. It's not that I don't attach to people the way you said you attach easily to people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really. I attach easily to people that I feel extremely connected to very quickly in a
Mm-hmm.
way, but it's got to be a very, very unique or special connection. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm pretty detached, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, oh, maybe I should dissect the fact that I'm detached from people.
No.
But, and I suppose we're not, therapists here, but like, to me, it doesn't feel like a hindrance to my ability to converse or have a life
Right.
or be social. So
Right.
I just don't really hold on to folks that
Yeah.
way
It sounds
anymore.
neutral,
Yeah,
like not
I'm good
detached,
about
but
it.
like you're just, yeah, you have boundaries.
Yes, I've always been pretty good at boundaries with friendships. That's one thing I
Yeah.
guess was always maybe an innate strength. I don't know. Or
Yeah.
maybe, I mean, I'm sure it was showed to me by my family, my parents, but I don't remember ever having like a lesson on boundaries.
Right.
As we said, this kind of stuff was not discussed in the 80s and 90s. So
No, how to set
never heard the word
boundaries.
boundaries until like, mid 20s and
Yeah.
on. But um, yeah, maybe it was just an innate strength. I don't know.
Right. Right. Well, okay. So I have a couple questions. And so the first question is kind of like, so it sounded like it's kind of like a two-parter. So the first part is it sounded like in a way there was like micro gaslighting in a sense where like she would put you down, right? She would insult you and then she'd be like, no, it's just a joke. And that to me
Yeah,
sounds a little like gaslighting because everyone like knows that it wasn't a joke.
right.
But then it sounds like her behavior then either like encouraged other people to do it too for whatever reason, to protect ourselves or to protect, or but so it sounds like in a way your friendship with her was similar to mine with this person in that we didn't bring out the best in each other.
No.
And
No,
so
yeah,
like,
like we had lots of fun, lots of laughs, lots of good
yeah,
times, but yeah, no, energetically, we were always on the opposite end of the plane.
yeah. And so then my question is like, did you have that kind of like banter with other friends where you would do that stuff, or was it like no one else really did that and it only happened when she was around?
No one else did that.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, look, we all tease each other in a
Yeah, yeah,
loving
yeah, yeah.
way, right? Like that to me, like there's something, and I definitely am guilty of like, and I've been told like, hey, that was a bridge too far, and I apologize or whatever, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not admitting like no fault, and I was some kind of sweet,
Right.
squeaky clean, perfect teen who always said and did the right thing. Absolutely not. Let's
Right.
get clear on that. But we all, I think, at least I can only speak for myself. I never felt like there was any malice coming from other mouths.
Right. Right.
And I want to believe that the other, some of the other people, if I would joke or tease, like the energy was, because the energy was always when she said something, we all
Mm-hmm.
had the same response. That's that we would all shrug off the way she would speak to everyone.
Yeah.
Right. And so that kind of language didn't need to be used for anyone
Right.
else because it wasn't a pattern or
Right.
um I don't know, and I might be projecting a little bit because it was just so long ago,
Right.
but
Right.
yeah, I don't remember ever having to say the phrase over and over again. We literally we coined it. I mean, we didn't coin the phrase, but we said, oh, she's just got foot and mouth. We would use her name afterward, foot and
Yeah.
mouth X,
Yeah.
right? She's always got her foot in her mouth saying the wrong thing, and because we
Mm.
condoned it, we laughed
Yeah.
along sometimes, right?
Right.
Sometimes not. I mean, usually, and again, back to being a bad teenage girl,
Yeah.
usually we laughed along if it was like outside of the group or
Right.
outside of us.
Right. Right.
But there was less laughter if once it came inside. And it came inside a
Yeah.
lot,
Right.
and not just to me. Right. And
Oh,
so like at some point I got tired of excusing this
yeah.
personality, this behavior. And it's just like I remember Adam at one, because Adam and I have been together for so many years. He was just like, why are you still talking to I'm
Mm.
like, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be, and yeah, so that I'm sure that came up at least once, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. I mean, so it sounds like you learned a valuable lesson at a young age. And you also just have this natural ability of having boundaries around friendships. And so you've just really applied what you've learned moving forward, where you don't necessarily like if red flags appear at the beginning of like connecting with someone, you're able to just like shut it down rather than like, oh, maybe they'll change. Maybe I'll
Right.
excuse this behavior. It's like, no, I did the
Right.
excusing the behavior. I've learned.
Yes. Maybe it's a blessing. I learned from a really young age, like, oh,
Yeah.
there's just going to be some people that don't, don't stay around and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
And even as an adult, like, I think, well, we all hold on to things differently and for different reasons. And I have a harder time letting go of some other things, I guess, if I really wanted to think about it. But when it comes to toxic people, people that make me anxious in their presence, people that aren't, truly themselves, like there's a whole host of people,
Mhm.
that types of people that would make me anxious. But um, I'm sure I'd be able to deal with it more if I'm able to deal with it more because I have a pretty early understanding of what my relationship is like with a person,
Right.
no matter how long I've known them.
Right.
So, and
Right.
if it changes over time, I've always been able to just look at it as like, it's just changed. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different
Huh.
now, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm all right with it,
Yeah.
you know? And I,
Yeah.
I guess maybe we'll see if that, listen, if it were to happen and I would have a problem and it's like, no, I don't want to lose that relationship, or
Mhm.
I can't imagine losing that then, I'll have to, that'll be something new for me. I'll have to
Yeah.
navigate. But
Yeah. So you go with the flow pretty well. You flow with the go.
yes, when it comes to friendships,
Yes.
I think I understand. Yeah, believe me, there's plenty of things that I like flow with that are like giant roadblocks in my ocean, but
Yeah.
still, yes, I don't know. I think that letting go, just like every practice that we have through our anxiety, is going to be different depending on the situation and the person.
Mhm.
And so for everyone listening, spend some time today, this week, thinking about what are the ways in which I can practice the act of letting go
Yeah.
and or the act of forgiveness.
Yeah.
What are some actionable steps that I can take
Yeah.
to get myself to one place or the other, and to just recognize that it may be a process and it may require participation on the part of another person,
Mhm.
right? In order to let go. Yeah,
Yeah.
might be a struggle. Cool.
Yeah. All right. So we're
So,
gonna do our active practice.
active practice segment.
Active
Active
practice
practice
segment.
segment. We don't have a sting for that, but we'll come up
Mm-mm.
with it.
Yeah. So for active practice, I kind of already like started talking about it a little bit. And that is like when I'm thinking about letting go of something, um, for me, I can't let go of the whole situation, right? Like there's too many different bits and pieces and everything like that. And so the first thing I get clear on is like, what do I want to let go of? And so sometimes I can let go of all of it. Sometimes I'm like, I'm letting go of the anger. I'm letting go of the hurt. I'm letting go of the situation. I'm letting go of feeling right. And I can let it all go. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I am ready to let go of the anger of this, but I'm only like 10%. I do some like arbitrary percentage, like 10% ready to let go of the anger towards myself. Right. Like, and so I get really clear. And then anytime it pops up, I remind myself, like, oh, we're letting this go, or I let this go, or I
Mm.
replace it with a new narrative. Like, I let this go so that I can feel more peace in my life. And so, like, reminding myself, like, this situation, I don't want it to have control over me, and I'm letting it go and I'm replacing it with the feeling of peace. But sometimes I have to like work even harder and like not just like work all in my head, but I have to be in my body. And so I'll like sit down and do a seated practice where I'll think about like the thing I want to let go of. And I'm always like doing it in a safe way. Like if I know I'm not going to be able to let go of it, I'm not going to like bring it up. Right. But if it's
Right.
like manageable, like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 4 or 5. That's where I'm working with. So I'll sit down and I'll think of the thing that I want to let go of, and I'll like feel where it is in my body. And then feeling that sensation and connecting to that sensation, I'm able to have more compassion for it. And then I like usually do some type of like gesture. Like I'll put my hand in front of me, like, oh, I'm letting it go. And I like place it outside my body.
Mm.
Or I'll like, I do something like I trust my body to do the movement that feels like the movement to let it go. And so that's like sometimes like when things are really sticky, it's like, okay, feel it in my body, and then allow my body to process the letting go of it and how the body wants to react to letting it go.
I love that. I love that part of
Thanks.
it. That's my favorite part of it because it's like it makes it literally active in multiple ways,
Yeah.
right? It's got a lot of different modalities to this practice.
Yeah.
It's mental, it's physical,
Yeah.
and I think it can be very empowering and helpful to bring the body into the practice because I think we
Yes.
are so often as anxiety warriors trapped up in our brains, trapped
Mm-hmm.
up in our minds, our thoughts, and it's like, oh crap, I forgot I was practicing letting go of this, and sometimes that can really take you down a place, a
Yeah.
rabbit hole, whatever. And so the act of like, what does my body want to do right now to let go of this
Mm-hmm.
thing? And it may bring some joy or some other emotions up into it too.
Yeah.
At least movement always brings joy to me typically.
Right.
So
Right. And I feel like the other thing with the movement piece is it replaces the pattern, like the body pattern. Because
mm,
when I think about something that bothers me, like I'm hurt by this person, my body usually like tenses up or, I feel different sensations or whatever. And by replacing it with another movement or another thing from the body, it's changing the pattern. Right. So then my
right.
go-to when I think about it is maybe a more freeing posture than like feeling tense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. I love that.
Thanks.
So good. So, warriors, something to try out for yourself maybe this week or more generally. And, like everything we share, there's no hard and fast rules to any of this. This
Yeah.
is just some of the stuff that we want to bring to you as a means of potential, as a means of potential support, as a means
Mm-hmm.
of being a possibility, something for you to add to the toolbox, to give a try. Maybe you try, you're like, nope, that doesn't feel right.
Yep.
That's not jiving with me. And I got to move on and go back to something else or try something else that's new.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, you know, when it's like deep traumas, get help. Like, don't
Yeah,
re-traumatize yourself. Like, I just feel like that's an important thing to say. Like, I said the
totally.
scale of 1 to 10. Like, don't be working on tens unless you know that there's someone there that can support you.
No, I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah, I mean, there needs to be a limit to the things that we can do to care for ourselves, or there
Mm-hmm.
might be limits to the things that we can do to care for ourselves, and that's something to consider for
Yeah.
yourself out there. But we hope that you enjoyed this episode and that you enjoyed our messy relationship stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that at the very least, make some space for yourself today or this week to consider the ways that you can start letting go of things, or how maybe
Yeah.
you'd like to start letting go of things, or think about your patterns of letting go or forgiveness from your past.
Yeah.
And how are they still impacting you today, if they are? And thank you for being here. We love you. We're going to share a win of the week.
Yeah.
I didn't
Win of
forget.
the week. Win of the week.
Do you have a win of the week?
I do. I have a double win. Can I do
Ooh.
a double win?
You can do whatever you want, lady. This is
Woohoo!
our podcast.
That's right.
Double win
Well,
it is.
the first win is that we launched our merch store.
Woo!
Yay!
It's so good, everyone. It's so good. We're obsessed with it. Obsessed.
We are obsessed. We have been sitting on some of these graphics for a little bit, and we've been very excited to launch. And it is now launched and in the world, where you can get anxiety warrior swag. I don't usually use that word. Merch.
I do.
All right, you swag it up, girl. And
it's on all the Instagram posts so far.
Yes, it is on all Instagram posts. You'll see pictures of Margot and I wearing our, our swag, and it feels so forced. So that's a huge win. That has been something that's been very exciting. And then another win is I had applied to do a workshop for an online like app. It's like a wellness app. I got accepted. And so I will be doing an online workshop on October 30th, all about mindfulness.
That's so exciting.
It's called TAT Lab, TAT Lab. And it's an app that you pay like a monthly subscription for, kind of like going to the gym. But it's for your emotional and mental well-being. It's for mental health. And they always have like different classes and different presenters and so on a whim, I I applied and I got picked. And
That's
so
awesome.
I'm very excited about that, to being able to teach mindfulness and practices to people I don't know,
That's so cool. Is it going to be
Yeah.
live?
It's
Or
going to
is
be
it
live, and it's not going to be recorded or anything like
okay?
that. And
That's interesting.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's really exciting. And everyone that takes it will obviously learn a ridiculous amount because you're brilliant. And I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. So that
A
was,
good
that
win.
was a huge win,
That's
and
a
like,
big win.
when you like fill something out and you're like lightly attached, like you're like, I would like to get picked, but I'm not going to get too attached so that I feel
Totally.
disappointed.
Yep.
But then like the email came and it was like, hey, we chose you and like 3 other people. And it's like, yippee.
Yeah. It's like, why did I even doubt it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it. Congrats.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Amazing. All right, warriors, we love you so much. Thank you for being here and journeying with us. If you would like to get in touch, send us an email at anxietywarriorspodcast@gmail.com. Throw us your wins of the week. If you have any topic ideas you'd like us to chat about here on the podcast, let us know. Also, if you think you'd be a good fit as a guest on the podcast, you have an anxiety story to share, I'd love to hear from you too. So shoot us that email, anxietywarriorspodcast@gmail.com, and join our Instagram family. We have so much fun over there at Anxiety Warriors Podcast. And come join the community.
Yes.
Join us over there.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for going on this journey with us. We are so, so grateful you all are here.
We love you. Till next time.